Gotcha.
pieces of info in that first sentence.
Gotcha. So Mark Johnson, should I be looking at you or? Say Mark Johnson, Director of Development. I've been with Skanska 9.5 years, and I'm based in Washington, D.C.
So this is our 10-year anniversary film, and you've been here for about all of that.
Yes.
So tell me what, I kind of have it in here, but generally, like, when you came to Skanska, what was going on with you? What were you doing before? Why did you bring it here? I see the reflection on that. Are you seeing the reflection?
I don't see the camera.
Okay.
Oh, I see what you're saying now. It's not the camera.
Like right behind you, I see
Right.
yellow vest.
I mean, I can, if you want, I can tell him to move.
No,
but
it's not
a big deal.
It's just for my vantage.
Sure.
Okay, sorry. So tell me how you came to be here.
So I came to Skanska in April 2009, and it was sort of the height of the downturn. I had been laid off from my previous job about 4 months prior, and was out looking for a new gig. And I was lucky enough through a headhunter to find Skanska. I was employee number 2, hired in DC after Rob Ward, and it was sort of an interesting time. I think everybody was running for the hills, saying real estate was kind of going down, and here there was a Swedish company that was coming in and really, saw an opportunity to kind of get going. It was an interesting time. I say Rob and I started out sharing a cubicle at the infrastructure development offices in Alexandria. It was about a 10-foot by 10-foot cubicle, and I remember joining and saying, this is interesting. There's the two of us, and there's, it seems like a bigger group with the ID function, but, commercial development, where, just the two of us trying to figure out what's going on. And we hired a couple other people not long after that, but it was sort of an interesting experience to get going. I think originally we were told that it was going to take 1.5 years, 2 years to kind of get our first project up and running. And about 3 months in, we found a project. And it wasn't a project that was, just sort of, ready to begin design and kind of that whole process. It was a project that was fully designed, pretty much ready to go. They'd already actually started the excavation. And so, we pretty much hit the ground running from the get-go. It was definitely a unique experience. We had a very quick ramp-up. We brought on Mark Carroll onto the project pretty quickly, and we were in the ground sort of that, I'm going to say probably less than a year after we started getting that project underway. That was 733 10th Street.
So tell me
about. So 733 10th Street was a project that had been sort of already designed, and construction had actually started on the project. They had begun the excavation on the site, and that's when the financing was pulled. P.N. Hoffman was the developer at the time, and they weren't able to continue going forward. They had originally tried doing condominiums. That didn't work, so then they flipped over to office, and that's kind of when we got involved. We kept them on as a partner. They assisted us through the process, but it was definitely a unique project. Working with a church on the ground floor, and then also having office space above added sort of a unique wrinkle to that project and that process.
Give me just a one line, because we use them interchangeably, that 733 10th Street is also 10th and G, because we have other people talking about what they call 10th and G, so
okay.
If 733 10th is the name,
I can
just give me some, and also known here is 10th and G, or just explain that to me so
Sure.
I had it.
So 733, also known as 10th and G, was the first project that Skanska Commercial Development did in the U.S.
That's good. Okay, and
It's going to have Julie's.
Figure out there. Yes. We're just filming something, Byron. Okay. Thanks, Byron.
tell me about, okay. He's out. Just called
There's another guy coming. I mean, I can tell these guys if you want just to hit the road for. Oh.
15 minutes?
Yeah.
Right.
Hey.
This is about 73310. Just walk me through the construction phase. That was our first one.
Sure.
How was the construction? process for us, working with our own building unit, up to completion, and then we'll get into like how did leasing and investment go.
Sure. So yeah, 733 was a unique challenge when we got the project. As I said before, it was already actually partly constructed, and so we went in there, and they had a design, but the design really didn't meet what we thought the needs were. So we actually went out and hired or brought on an architect to kind of help assist in that redesign of the building. We actually made it a little bit more efficient, something that fit a little bit better to an office environment. And it was originally designed as a residential project, so trying to get the true floor plates was really kind of most efficient, was the most important to us. So we spent time, probably about 6 months, working through the design. And construction, working with our construction team, was the first time we'd worked together. I think there was a lot of emphasis put on, obviously it was the first project for commercial development in the U.S., first time we were working with our building team together. I think Sweden had a lot of eyes on the project, and I think that certainly helped the project move forward, and I think in a good way. I think our building group really recognized that this was super critical for not only Skanska as a whole and commercial development, but I think for Skanska USB as well. In DC, they had a pretty small presence here. They were really sort of doing kind of one-off medical projects and maybe some schools, and this was really their chance to kind of plant their flag in the DC market.
Do you remember the circumstances around the first tenant that we got there? Well, I guess the first tenant is technically the church, but our first lease that came in.
I kind of do. I kind of don't. It's actually a problem. I'm trying to think. I remember the tenant. I just don't. I don't remember there being any big hurrah. I'm trying to think here. I think. So, I mean, there's something maybe a better story is just the fact that we were the only construction project pretty much under construction in 2009, 2010 within DC. Pretty much the only spec office building. Everybody thought we were crazy. And it was sort of fun, I mean, to see as we were going up, there was a lot of interest in the building, and we signed our first tenant probably within 5 or 6 months of starting construction. And by the time we completed construction, we were about 85%, 90% leased, which was unheard of. People really didn't expect that. They really thought that we were going to be delivering an empty building. And here we were in an amazing downtown location, pretty much the only new product available, and tenants were running to us.
And then when did divestment come about? How long after that?
So we pretty much delivered the building, and divestment took place pretty shortly thereafter. I think originally we were trying to figure out what the right time frame was, but when we were about 90% leased when we delivered the building, they said it's time to sell. So we put the project on the market. I want to say it was sort of early 2011, and sold it in May of 2011. And we had a good response to the building. We had probably 30 or 40 different groups that came and looked at it, and we got down to the final 2 and ended up selecting Jamestown to purchase the building. And it was a great win. I think for the first project, again, all eyes were on us from Sweden, and that project returned a 60% return. So I think, Sweden said, hey, this is an experiment. They got a 60% return on the first project, and we're pretty excited, and I think they were ready to jump all in at that point.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think, and you can speak to the group at large or like the DC team, what do you think has been our biggest learning? Either, what have we seen work really well, what hasn't worked well that we adapted to and sort of do different?
Biggest thing that we've learned, I think we've learned to work well together. I think there was a little bit of a, kind of like walking, you got to, crawl, and then eventually you start, kind of stumbling around. I think we spent a lot of time at the very early years to kind of get a relationship with USB on track. I think really learn our strengths and our weaknesses and kind of figure out the ways that we could improve from project to project with our experience and our knowledge and just our overall output. I think we've done a good job. We've almost been here 10 years now, and I think our relationship with USB has grown immensely over those years.
Okay. So you've been here for the first 10 years, and as you know, being involved in this meeting, the kind of theme of the meeting is the next 10 years.
Right.
Let's pivot up where do we go from here. So what do you see for commercial development in the next 10 years?
I think it's exciting. I think our future is pretty bright here. I think, we've spent the last 10 years kind of building a foundation, And now we really have all of the tools in place to kind of jump and grow, and not only within sort of the 5 key markets that we have, but I think in the future, I think there's opportunity to continue to expand across the U.S. Commercial development has been highly successful in the U.S., and I think Sweden has recognized that, and I think they're continuing to put resources into the market here, and I think things look really bright.
Give me a comment on the DC commercial development market right now. What's going on?
Sure.
Yeah.
So
Looks like much is happening.
Yeah. So DC is a really interesting market right now. I think there's a ton of construction and development going on all throughout the city, and I think primarily it's been multifamily. Office has been a little bit of a laggard, but I think you're going to start to see that start to pick up. Obviously, Amazon is on the tongues of everybody in DC, and I think we're feeling pretty good about our opportunity or our chances to get it, even if it doesn't land in the district itself. I think if it's in Northern Virginia or Maryland, I think we all realize it's a big win for the DC market. So I think that presents a strong opportunity. But even outside of that, I think that there's a great opportunity. DC continues to grow. I think it's a place where you've got both young and old that are coming to the city. They recognize it has a lot of unique attributes. I think a lot of cities don't have, and I think that's really sort of drawing and attracting people, and I think it'll continue. DC has always been a government town. I think the government's playing less of a role, and I think in the future it's going to play less of a role in sort of attracting people to the city as opposed to currently. I think you're finding now that the government's shrinking, but private sector is doing a great job of kind of filling in the holes and really sort of continue to grow our economy.
How have you seen our brand evolve from the beginning to today as a developer? So I'm wanting to get that kind of, as in the beginning, people didn't know us as a developer would come in and say, we're here, we're doing this now, right. Versus how do you think we're seen in the marketplace today, in your marketplace that you see? Gotcha.
So when we first started with Skanska, people couldn't pronounce our name. They didn't know who we were. They didn't understand what we did. Because infrastructure development was here and civil was here, they had done some work in the market. So they say, oh, you build a bridge, oh, you do a tunnel. And it was sort of interesting to kind of open their eyes and say, hey, no, we actually do commercial development and construction as well. And I think 10th and G was sort of what really helped kind of plant our flag and kind of get the brand a little bit more well known. And then it was interesting because we had all 4 units in this market to start out with. People really started to recognize Skanska for more than just, again, the civil and the infrastructure projects, but also the commercial development once we got projects in the ground. I think what we're finding now is that Skanska is sort of a name brand in the market. I think people realize and recognize that we're a player, we're here to stay. We've got a lot of great projects in the works. We've got a lot of great real estate currently between 99M, which is just wrapping up now, 2112 Pennsylvania. We've got our first multifamily project at 22M. I think people are realizing that we're not sort of a one-trick pony, that we've got a lot of tricks up our sleeves, and that we have the staying power to be a strong player in this market.
So, second hire into DC, one of the first on the CD team. What keeps you here 10 years in?
So that's a great question. I'll tell you, it's a wide variety of things that kind of keeps me doing what I'm doing. I love the people, love the projects. We're a small group. I think if you go and work at a larger organization, you oftentimes get pigeonholed into one area, one expertise. And I think what's great about us is we've got 12 people, 14 people in our office. We really each kind of take ownership on a wide variety of elements throughout the project, all the way from acquisitions to divestment. You're touching everything across the board. And a lot of companies don't do that. A lot of companies, you may just be an acquisitions person and you're just buying land, or you may be a divestment person, you're just selling projects or leasing. But here you're really touching everything, and I think that's the exciting part. Each and every day is new, unique, different, and that's really what kind of keeps you coming back.
Okay. So we have a whole fun video that we don't
Sure.
have a lot of time for, so it's got 4 sections. I'm just going to give you the 2